What's happening, Blades? So I've been wanting to make this one for a while, and for obvious reasons, I haven't been able to. But since talk of a takeover first started, reported by Nath Emmingham first and foremost, which is where I first saw it, I've been on Ramble trying to initially just speculating as to what were going off and who it could be. I put a video out that did really well saying, is this prospective new owner? And it wasn't. But, you know, we were all in the same ballpark, just wanting to know as much information as we could. So it were ideal for me as a new channel to go wild with my speculation as to who it was, and because that's generally what I was thinking at the time, and this is what I've read and this is what I've seen. And we eventually land on this name of Dozy Mmobuosi, and we do a bit of research, or I do a bit of research, and I bring a couple of rambles. I record a couple of rambles where I'm talking about what I know about him or what I've managed to find out about him. We talked about a dilapidated house in St Albans, which he apparently hadn't paid any rent on, which turned out to be a load of rubbish. But it's been a hell of a weird journey, because throughout all that, I'm just hopefully growing, but a fledgling Sheffield United YouTube channel with a little following. I think I had about 700 followers at the time, which I'm massively appreciative of, and thank you to all those that have been with us since that time. And it hasn't been that long, but we've just gone from strength to strength since then. But out of the blue, I got a private message on Twitter from Dozy, and basically I was like, no, I'm not having it. But I checked the Twitter account, and it's his Twitter account. Has he been hacked? As you know, is somebody having me on here? He wants to meet for a pint, and he'd been talking about he'd fallen in love with the place because he'd gone for a pint and he'd found out about Sheffield United and all that sort of stuff. Like the tale we all know. So I'm like, this ain't right, but obviously responded. Be great to do that. Fantastic. I'm thinking, oh my God, why? Why is my question more than anything? Anyway, I remember it. I were in Clinton's in White Rose, I think, and my phone rang, and it's an unknown number. And this person introduced themselves, and I'm not going to reveal the name because obviously that's an ongoing relationship and somebody I've got a lot of respect for, and it's been a part of this unreal ride. But this person introduced themselves, explained the situation and their relationship with Dozy, and that Dozy would like to meet. And I was like, right, okay. And I'm thinking, is this... It's so strange. Why would he want to meet me? And I still can't answer that question today, to be honest. But I rang my dad straight away. That was the first thing I did. Dad, this is surreal. This is madness. What is going on here? And he's like, Jimmy, I don't know, pal. I don't know. It's you know, my dad knows a lot of people in football. So he knows sort of how things work. And this is sort of left field. Never really happened before. I didn't know what I was walking into. But he asked to meet me, and 10 out of 10 for those that have already guessed, at the Roebuck pub. So the following day, I turned up at the agreed time, walk into the Roebuck, and there's two men sat there. And one of them has got a Sheffield United Blades cap on, a black Blades baseball cap on. And, you know, he's dressed down casually so as not to stand out. And another lad there who turned out to be the lad I'd been speaking to on the phone. And, yeah, just surreal. So I walked in, sat down, got myself a pint of Guinness, which Dozy paid for. His card did not bounce, for those of you that are interested. And I spent the next 2.5 hours talking all things Sheffield United, getting to know him, finding out why he was interested in buying the club, what plans he had for the club. He talked to me about things that later came out in mainstream news outlets and things, such as the relationships he'd had with people, the meetings he's had prior, the money that he's put in. He didn't talk specific figures, but he did state that things had been understated as opposed to what he contributed. He talked to me about examples of what he's done in his home country, and how he wants to bring that to Sheffield and form the community links that he sees benefiting the wider community. He talked about the visa deal that Tingo got and the fact that he had to go through ridiculous amounts of due diligence with that. It was just a really positive meeting, and I'm conscious. I want to be completely transparent with this. He didn't ask me to say anything about his takeover bid. It was there were no at no time did he say, I want you to say this, or I want you to be positive, or I've never been asked to come on my and I wouldn't because I don't know the full story. I've only got Dozy's side of things, but I don't think it's fair to come on with anything else other than either fact or my opinion. So it was so surreal. Absolutely. And to be honest, it flew by. Absolutely flew by. And since then, I've maintained contact with the chap who contacted me. So that's been an ongoing relationship where I was able to get access to the Tingo call and things of that nature, which we all had access to, but things like getting to know things slightly early. And at one stage, I were asked about certain people who I think could be involved with the club going forward, and what were my thoughts on this, and just absolutely surreal. I mean, I'd asked him at the time, why ask me? Why are you wanting to meet with me? I am a very small niche corner of the Sheffield United market, if you like, and it were very kind of him to say, but he watches the channel. He's a Rambler. He said that I'm quite well respected within media circles, if you like, for the way I operate, which blows my mind to even think that that's possible. People are apparently talking about the rambles in and around Bramall Lane and things of that nature. So it's mad to think that that's even anywhere near going on. So that were really nice to hear. And he thought I was fastest growing YouTube channel related to the club. So very nice words, and that were his reasoning for contacting me. But I still scratch my head sometimes. But it's been great for me. Obviously, whenever I put out a Dozy video, it's loads of people are interested, and it gets me a lot of views. But hopefully, then you stay for the content itself in terms of you agree or you like to interact with what we're saying. So, firstly, I want to thank Dozy for even taking the time to meet with me. Another thing he said, which made me laugh, he said he'd watched my video when I'd originally reported on him potentially being the man, and I'd shown a picture of that dilapidated house in St Albans. He were creasing himself, apparently, because I've got all this, I'm not being funny, but I've got all this money, and you'd think that's where I live or where I've lived. Ultimately, his reasoning behind stuff like that, and whether you would choose to take this on board or not is up to you. He's got that many people working for him that some of these things don't even come onto his radar, which I think is more than feasible, and I take him at face value. But as I say, I want to thank him and his colleague who I still speak to regularly for just involving me and keeping me in the loop, and that then allows me to share with you what the circumstances are in terms of that side of things. We're very fortunate as a fan base to have Darren Smith, who also links the Prince's side of the equation to the fan base, if you like. And I know Darren hasn't got a YouTube outlet, but he's very active on Twitter, and I'm sure he'd let me know if he weren't happy with me sharing anything that he's already said on Twitter, just to give that balance and that reflection, because as I record, the Prince has just been on TalkSport saying that he's now wanting to sell within the next 4 weeks, which sounds unrealistic, to be honest. And people are rightly speculating maybe there's been stuff going on in the background. The alternative is that it's a power play or a bit of a poker play with Dozy to say, look, the ball's still in your court, even though the exclusivity has ended. You've already put so much into the club, upwards of £15 million, and that could potentially form part of a renegotiation. But I haven't heard anything in terms of Dozy's intentions over the last 2-3 weeks now. So if I do hear anything, as I say, I'll come on and report that if they're happy for me to do so. But just a surreal experience. So yeah, met him in the Roebuck, had 2.5 hours with my beers paid for, and just an unbelievable, unforgettable experience. And again, I just feel quite lucky that I was plucked out to be the one to meet with him. But it's then allowed me to share that with you guys, and I feel like we're at a stage now where they won't mind me coming on and sort of at least updating you on how I've got the information and why I've had that, and giving you that source then potentially gives it a bit more legitimacy in what I've been saying to you, hopefully. So, as I say, I've passed on news with all good intention. I don't want, I'm not saying everything I've reported has been 100% accurate. I couldn't possibly say that because I've only heard one side of the argument and then had Darren's Prince perspective to balance things out and make our own assumptions. But it looks like there's going to be a battle on for this investment that's coming, and with the Prince wanting to sell within 4 weeks, it seems very optimistic. But I think we will look back at Prince Abdullah's time with us and think, I personally think he's been perhaps the best owner we've ever had. You look at where we were when he took us on. You look at where we are now. I'm not saying mistakes haven't been made. I didn't like the way Wilder exited. I think there's blame on both sides for that. I think we should have given him a better send-off. I think there's other things. I think going into an embargo is embarrassing. He said this morning he put 40 million in it with the sake of £1 or £2 million that we ended up in an embargo. Well, Simon Jordan rightly said, well, if you're putting 40 million in, you might as well put 42 in to stop us going into an embargo. So I get that. But also, I think we'd all agree, if he'd have sold Berger and particularly Ndiaye, if Illiman goes in January, I don't think we get promoted, because he's been the difference between automatic promotion. He's certainly been worth at least 10 points this season. So you've got to back him and thank him for that. And if this is, the final season that he's our owner, then what a job he's done. And I hope that his lasting legacy will be leaving us in the hands of someone that's got the best interests of the club at heart. And if that's Dozy, then I'm all for it. So don't write Dozy off yet. I will try my best to get an update. And if I do, we'll record another ramble on that. But thanks all for your support as ever. It's much appreciated. If you do like what we're doing in the videos, please like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. This one's going out to members first. So if you want to become a member, you're more than welcome. And thank you again to those that are. And come on, you red and white wizards. Up the blade!